This is KTN News.
Welcome back to Morning Express. It is now just about 20 minutes to 8 o'clock, and right here on KTN News, following up closely on the nominations that begin today for Jubilee. Although so far it seems like nowhere has voting begun in all the counties that we've been to and brought you live coverage. No voting has begun, but of course we shall continue with that detailed report of things as they unfold. But allow me now to introduce the panel that we have in studio with me. And starting with my extreme left, we have Professor Oyeri Tumbo. Good morning and thank you for joining us. We also have Suba Churchill, who's a political analyst. Good morning and thank you for joining us. And last but not least, we have Bernard Wakoli, who's also a political analyst. And let me start with you, Bernard, because we were with you earlier on and you've seen basically what's happening. Are you surprised that it seems like things are rather disorganized? I think it was ambitious for Jubilee to imagine that they could do this in one day.
Yeah, it was ambitious, but I want to underscore the fact that nomination is a project, like any other project, and you have to put into consideration issues of preparation, resources, both the financial and human resources, and, you know, plan it from the beginning to the end. But our political parties really lack this capacity to run a very serious nomination. Initially, Jubilee had indicated that they will seek the services of IBC to run their nominations. I don't know what where that ended to, because we thought maybe, and the president had promised Kenyans that Jubilee will provide the most successful nomination. But from what we are seeing and what's going on in this nomination, they have not yet started. We are seeing confusion. People are being told, oh, they are cancelled, they are there, postponed, such kind of thing. So it was very, very ambitious for the Jubilee government to imagine that they would conduct this nomination for a single day. For a single day.
Churchill, any surprises? Are you surprised that things may not have been working out?
I'm not surprised at all. When I was here 2 days ago, I did point out that nominations in our political parties are far from prepared. They have no sufficient logistical preparedness to conduct this exercise, and more so in areas where nominations are as good as the election proper. You have seen the tensions building in Uasin Gishu, in Nyeri, because whoever clinches the ticket of the political party that is most popular on the ground is as good as elected, only awaiting the official announcement on August the 8th. And so I'm not surprised that this is happening. One would have thought that Jubilee, for example, would have learned from the mistakes that ODM made in its own primaries. One would have thought that the reason parties wanted to parcel out this nomination so that they are done in phases was to enable them to be sufficiently prepared. But as you can see, far from, different from ODM's situation where names of candidates were missing from the ballot paper, it is now the case in Jubilee that they do not even have sufficient ballot papers. I think the assumption is that turnout for nominations are lower, which is not the case, particularly in strongholds. And I think parties are trying to save as much money as possible, I think, for the presidential campaign at the expense of the credibility of the nomination exercise. And I think they really need to give people value for their money because, as you are aware, parties like Jubilee and ODM bagged close to billions of shillings from candidates, and therefore people want to see value for money. I was particularly shocked when I saw the levels of violence in Migori, Homa Bay. I think it's a reflection of the lack of capacity by our political parties, lack of preparedness, lack of a positive attitude to make sure that this process works.
All right.
And I think that is the case.
Okay, Professor Eri, your take on what's happening so far, or might we be accused of being too harsh on Jubilee, given that maybe once it starts, it might iron out and, move, since the ballot papers have not even been distributed yet?
There is a saying that if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. Now, from the statements made by the leadership of Jubilee for the last 1 month, the impression they were giving is that they were paying attention to every planning detail in the development of a framework for implementation of the primaries. Now, from what you are seeing is that even material mobilization for implementation of the main stage of the election has not been availed, which suggests, one, that there is in-house disorganization. You know, there is a book called Thriving in Chaos by Peters. Now, this is an example of how people hope to succeed
in chaos.
Secondly, there is an important lesson to be learned from this, that if you look even as far back as 1966 up to now, it's quite common that when parties are undergoing internal strains and stresses, the time spent organizing for positive progressive activity is severely limited. What they should be operating by now, considering the problems they have with the planning, is the 2080 principle. In other words, get as little as possible of your resources to give you as big a result as you can. That is, use 20% to get 80% return. Now, in this particular case, the principle appears to be
the other way around.
Thirdly, there is something interesting about what you see. Previous discussions and in the electronic media, you could hear Jubilee leadership, taunting NASA and ODM for its inability to organize and do all these things. Now, I thought while they were doing that, they were perfecting their machinery for implementation of this process. But what you are seeing is that there is a very strong, in chemistry we call it entropy, tendency towards disorganization. So, and this is because people have realized that there is a lot of material benefit to be derived from being a politician, either at MCA, in parliament, or at governor level. So everybody is doing anything and everything to get in there with a specific goal that they want to benefit from those resources. As a result, there is no respect for structures, there is no respect for people in responsible position, there is no respect for commitment, other people who have spent time building those systems that are being used. So as a result, let's actually be positive and hope that as the day goes by,
things will iron out.
Things will iron out.
chances might be slim, especially given your opening statement that failing to plan is planning to fail. There is evidently lack of a plan in all this. But maybe just to widen the conversation, Churchill, your thoughts on our political parties and the fact that even their own primaries, they cannot manage, yet they require such high standards when it comes to IEBC. And we keep throwing mud at IEBC and saying that they need to deliver credible results. And yes, they must. But looking even at the internal structures, one, is it by design that there's this disorganization, according to what Prof is saying? Is it possible that somebody might thrive out of that chaos?
Exactly. As I mentioned last time, our parties are not used to this. These exercises are being forced on the party. And because Kenyans have had a taste of direct democracy, they are insisting, and I think they are right to insist, that whoever is given the ticket of a particular political party must have the legitimacy from the membership of that party. The other day when I was here, I was quite excited when I saw, residents of Nyamira who are members of ODM saying, we are not going to use the IBC role of register. This is an internal party affair, and they want people who are going to bear the ticket of the party to have legitimacy from the people that have membership in that party. And I think this is something that parties need to have learned from. I think what is lacking is the political will, essentially, to put in place mechanisms that will enable the people to have a say in who will have the ticket of their party of choice. And I think parties are treating this very casually. I think there is no sufficient preparation to commit the amount of resources required to appreciate the sheer logistical preparation that is required. I've observed elections for the African Union since 2008, and I have a rough idea of what it takes to prepare for an election. And I think given the manner, the casual manner you have seen parties putting together, election board at the national level, and the manner in which they handpick people at the local level to be clerks and returning officers, gives you the impression that for them, the burden is on IBC to deliver the ultimate results, yet at the internal party level, you don't see the same amount of preparedness. Of course, we cannot hold internal party democracies with at the same threshold as IBC, because IBC is a state agency funded and sufficiently resourced by the people to do that exercise. But we also, in the same breath, should expect parties to at least measure up to a certain level, not to the level of IBC, but to at least
be a threshold.
A threshold to be seen to be demonstrating commitment to deliver credible party primaries.
All right. Mr. Wakoli, is it that we don't have minds within the parties that can actually organize nominations to a point where we can see and people can feel that they're free and fair? Or is it, like Churchill says, literally just being too casual?
Okay, thank you, Mike, again. When you look at our political parties, you realize that these political parties are headed by individuals, and they draw their support base from various ethnic groups. So when you look at that, you realize that, okay, the parties might have brains, might have people to run these credible nominations. But one thing that affects the development of our political parties as institutions of governance is the sheer lack of, impartiality in terms of who gets what, when, and how. Most of the people who come to these parties, they come in with the mindset, this is our party, this is our, it's like our institution, this is our home, because they are led by people from our ethnic background. And some develop a tendency of like ownership, to own that party. And they control machineries within those political parties. They are the ones who want to get everything,
A sense of entitlement.
There's a sense of entitlement within those political parties. And having that sense of entitlement differentiates others, the rest, who are of goodwill and who want to join this party because they feel of the ideology of the party and they want to share with it. So these people are the ones who are running our political institutions down. And I think maybe a time will come when Kenya will grow politically, democratically, and build political parties as institutions of governance where good democratic practices can be demonstrated. But as we say, Profs talked about people thriving in anarchy and thriving in chaos. Some of these political parties have preferred candidates. That's something that we should not hide.
And I'm not sure it's a bad thing to have a preferred candidate because, politics is strategy.
Yeah.
And there are those who who can win. Others you may know they may be strategically placed for reasons.
Yeah. Now the element of having preferred candidates is what brings this confusion. Because I want Mike to win in a certain elective position. And Mike has like 10 opponents. So what I'll do is to put structures in place to ensure structure that favors Mike. You know, have Mike appoint his clerks, have Mike appoint favorable presiding officers, have Mike, you know, given his cronies, given contract to supply ballot papers, and along the way, in the long day of transportation of those ballot papers,
the whole process.
they get up into, you know, they are hidden, and you know, now your opponents will realize that we are not getting enough. Like you had some individuals saying that in a polling station they only have 50. Something like 50 ballot papers, you know. How can a polling station, you know, be given 50 ballot papers? It means ballot papers came, but you know,
Somehow
along the way they disappeared,
Okay.
and they will come back marked.
All right, let's hear from Prof.
Actually, I wanted to open up this a bit. My first point is that these entities we call political parties, I had my colleague refer to them as the ideology. These are special purpose vehicles for certain individuals.
The individual special purpose vehicles.
And these people are looking for power, all right? Now, they see quite clearly that if you set up, you say for every effective function, you must have a structural arrangement on which you carry out those functions. So there must be a framework which enables the party to implement specific aspects of its activities. Now, in this particular case, the leaders clearly understand that if you have structures, then merit will count. So these special purpose vehicles have no SOPs, all right? You know, the standard operating procedures.
Yes.
All they have got is activity channels whereby you can meander.
So what you're suggesting, Prof, is that this disorganization is by design?
Yes, because, and I'll illustrate this. If you look at ODM, all right, historically, ODM has never practiced democratic nominations.
Let me just ask you to hold that thought because I want us to release KTN Home.
Yeah.
Those of our viewers on KTN Home, we're going to release you now. Life and Style is just about to begin. But if you'd like to continue with the analysis and looking at what's happening as the primaries for Jubilee begin, do cross over if you're on KTN Home to KTN News. Those of us on KTN News, do stay with us. We are continuing with this debate. All right, sorry, Professor, carry on.
So what has happened, as I was saying, ODM has never really been, in terms of its nominations, has never been democratic. It's all about what the party leader wants, all right? Now, if you go to Jubilee, it's all what the president wants and the deputy president wants. Everybody is a political subject. Now, in this kind of arrangement, it's quite clear that it's difficult for people to dedicate enough time to preparing for a particular activity because they don't know when the leadership will change direction. Now, if the leadership change direction, all right, they'll find themselves abandoned on the highway.
Right.
So what you see here is also part of our national malaise, whereby when you want something to be done properly, structurally, decently, honestly, transparently, people have no time for it. They think you are arranging for their downfall. Now, so everybody is essentially a busybody. So in what you are seeing here, for example, in the issue of the ballot papers, the ballot papers may have been delivered.
All right.
But the busybodies of one party decided this particular station is not our stronghold. So the turnout.
Yeah, let me just pause you a little bit. We want to cross over to Bomet County, where we have Duncan Khaemba, who is basically bringing us an update. Duncan, good morning, and thank you for joining us. What is happening in Bomet? Duncan Khaemba, if you can hear me, you're in Bomet, I believe. Maybe you can let us know where exactly in Bomet you are. And secondly, what is happening in Bomet? Has voting begun? All right, my apologies there. Duncan Kaemba is not able to hear me clearly, but we'll try and get him back. Sorry, Professor, I interrupted your thought line and what you were saying, but you're mentioning that this disorganization is by design, number one. And number two, the fact that it is just a special purpose vehicle, yes, to use your words.
Yes.
Do you agree?
Let me finish.
Yes.
It's a special purpose vehicle because it's very clear what is the ideological position of any of these parties. Because the ideological position of ODM is similar to that of Jubilee, is similar to that of ANC.
So in short, even our political parties may not have a difference per se.
No, they don't have.
No difference whatsoever.
As I said, they're all special purpose vehicles for the individuals who head those organizations.
Those organizations.
So the structures required to transform that SPV into a political organization where you have got clearly spelled out levels and roles
and structures
is required. If you look, I can even demonstrate this using the ODM as an opposition, all right, or CORD as an opposition. Normally, you would expect them to have had a spokesman for agriculture, a spokesman. That is a shadow cabinet secretary. They didn't have, they preferred it to be left like that, because if you did that, then you would take some shine from the party leaders. So they left the thing in disarray where guys would play left wing, play right wing, play center back.
And then after they win, whoever wins, then it is left to the party leader to handpick his cronies as to who takes which
irrespective of what was your contribution on the journey to the top.
Wow.
So that is basically one of the challenges of our political
parties. Okay, I understand Duncan Kaemba is now ready for us. Duncan Kaemba, good morning. Thank you for joining us from Bomet. What is happening in Bomet? Has voting started? Has voting material reached, been distributed? What's going on?
Mike, some confusion here at Bomet. At Bomet Township Primary School in Bomet Town. It's one of the supposed polling stations across the county where supporters of Jubilee Party were supposed to participate in today's eagerly awaited party nomination. But you know, as last night, of course, I'm sure you've been able to play that material when the chairman, Jubilee election chair in this county, together with the aspirants, had actually held a crisis meeting until late, deep into the night, and they resolved that given the lack of proper preparations that they'd cited, it was in the best interest that the whole process be pushed to Tuesday. They unanimously agreed, then decided to push the exercise to Tuesday. But the information we've received this morning, the National Elections Board chair of Jubilee Party, Musangi, says the work of aspirants is not to call off or push an election, it's to participate. They don't have that mandate. And as such, the process is on. Now, this is what that means. At this particular primary school, we expected, if that exercise is on by now, that we have the election material. But as you can see, the place is deserted, no single activity, and many supporters have been streaming in and actually going away. More vehicles are driving in and out because they're arriving here, no election material, no election official of Jubilee Party, and therefore knowing too well that as per last night's agreement, then there was no such. Mzee has been here until from 5 in the morning. Is among wale walikuwa wamekuja kupiga kura mapema. Hapa leo ilikuwa tufanye hii shughuli ya mchujo wa Jubilee. Kuaje saa hizi hakuna shughuli?
Tulipata report kwa mtu mmoja aliingia hapa saa 11 akasema nimepata message atakuwa kipiga kura leo imeahirishwa. So watu walikuwa wanakuja tu wakisikia report kama hii tunaeleza sasa. Sasa watu wanakuja tena. Na hakuna report yote ambayo imepata zaidi kujua kama itakuja ama itapikwa ama watapikwa.
Na unasema mtu aliingia saa 11 akakupata.
Mtu ya kwanza kumba mimi message hiyo akasema message nimefuata atakuwa ndio kupiga kura. Okay. Watu wakaenda. Na watu wanakuja tu kuuliza tena. Na tupate report yote ambayo tunaona kama itakuwa ndio tunakuwa namna hiyo.
Ule mwenye aliingia saa 11 alikuwa ni mtu unajua ama ni mtu mwenye alikuwa anafaa kusimamia uchaguzi ama ni mtu alikuwa amekaa namna gani?
Ni mtu mwenye nafikiri kwa nakuja hapa kusimamia mwenye fanya hiyo kazi hiyo. Lakini ndio nieleza mimi ya mtu wa kwanza hapo. Nimepata message lakini hatutakuwa na mambo hiyo kufika kura leo. So tunaelezana na watu tu hivi namna hiyo bila alisema. Na watu wengi wamesema tena namna hiyo kurudia namna hiyo. Hawatakuwa na kura hiyo. Nasema angawa wengine wanasema karatasi yenyewe iliingia kidogo. Hatujui sasa si leo sasa. Sababu ni mmoja anakaa hapa tu hapo. Chunga tu hapo tu.
Well, Michael, that Mzee says 5, there's somebody actually who walked in here who was supposed to have been an official and told Mzee that the exercise, I beg your pardon, has been pushed. But that is the confusion. What is happening here? Last night you were among people who were at the hotel late into the night where it was agreed that there will be no exercise taking place. This morning, the National Elections Board has said aspirants don't have that mandate to push or even cancel an election. What is happening?
Yeah, I'm Victor Rapp. There is a lot of confusion here in Bomet County. We were in a meeting yesterday with the County Election Board and we resolved that the election to be pushed to a later date, that is on 25th. But in some polling centers, the information wasn't received well, so people turned out. I was in Tenwek right now, and the turnout is very high. So there were close to 50 people there waiting for the ballot papers to cast their votes. But it's so unfortunate, it's so untimely. So my request is to the people of Bomet, the residents and the members of Jubilee, let's be patient and let's wait so that we can do a very good election that is credible and free from any form of violence, free from any form of fraud, or there will be no form of any fraud process during the exercise. So that is my humble plea. Let's be, because these are Jubilee zone, we are expecting a very large turnout. And I won't blame the County Election Board of Bomet. Maybe my blame I can shift it to the National Election Board, but not necessarily as such. There is always the assumption that there is a low turnout of voting in the primaries. So they did the printing of the ballot papers basing on that fact. So I think, and it's a widespread. It's all over. It's in Kericho, it's in Wasingishu, it's in Nandi. So let's just be patient and let's wait for the next verdict from them.
Gentlemen, are you an aspirant ama wewe namna gani, and what do you make of this where we are? We are at one of the polling stations, no material, no official. Where are we headed?
Nimefuata. Nimekuja saa 10, nilikuwa ndani nipige kura. Nikakosa watu wa kupiga kura hayuko. So nilikuwa natamani kupiga kura. Yes.
Sasa kutakuwa namna gani, manake hakuna material? National Elections Board Nairobi nasema uchaguzi utaendelea, hapa hakuna chochote. Sasa kuna chochote?
Tutavumilia tu.
Wewe ulifaa kupigia kura wapi hapa?
Kapsimatu polling station.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, drive, I've seen you driving in. Sasa wewe pia ulikuwa, tulidhani unaleta karatasi za kura, manake you have a very big car.
Nilikuja kupiga kura. Mimi ni Charles Langat. Mimi ni mkaaji wa Bomet. Napiga kura yangu hapa Bomet Primary. Nimekuja kupiga kura ndio nikapata, unfortunately nikapata hakuna exercise. Hata tunashangaa Jubilee Party wangefaa wachipange ndio watupe free and fair nomination. Yeah, that is one we want in Bomet County.
Well, now that is what we are getting from some of frustrated Jubilee supporters, because they don't know exactly what to do, and that is what we are getting the feeling across. I think we'll be hopping to another polling station to see if at least there is one place where we have the election officials or the ballot material. But as it stands, it's total confusion. We've been able to get in touch with the handlers of a Sotik Member of Parliament, and that is Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Joyce Laboso, who is among the two contenders for the gubernatorial ticket for Jubilee. And she sounds, rather they are saying that she's equally in the dark. She doesn't know what to do or what to say, because she's among those leaders that are aspirants that are agreed unanimously that given the sort of shoddy preparations in courts that they actually knew would land the entire process into jeopardy today, they thought it was wise in their wisdom that the whole process be pushed to Tuesday. But now that hasn't happened. So we will be crisscrossing this part of the vast Bomet County to see exactly what will be happening, and if maybe the National Elections Board will finally decide to side with the aspirants that perhaps the process be pushed. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Duncan Kaimba, who is in Bomet County. And as you have clearly heard, well, there is a lot of confusion, with some saying that the nominations have been postponed. Not clear whether the National Elections Board has actually made their word regarding that, or it's just the aspirants. But now let's cross over to Murang'a County, where we have Sophia Wanuna reporting from there earlier on. She was at Murang'a Teachers Training College. Sophia, over to you. What is going on?
All right, many thanks, Michael Gitonga. We've now moved from the Murang'a Teachers College. That is the county tallying center. So we'll be seeing a lot of action there later on in the day as the results trickle in. Right now we're at Njora Primary School, which is a polling center here in Murang'a County. And business is just about to begin, the polling. We have quite a number of people gathered outside. I'm going to move off short so that Stanley, my cameraman, can just see some of the explanations that the voters are being taken through alongside the agents that are gathered here. The agents, of course, representing the various candidates we have, from the governors, the MCAs, the women rep, the senators. So those are the ballot boxes. That is the returning, rather the presiding officer that is taking the agents that are gathered within this room, inside this polling center, the Njora Primary School, and of course outside, standing by, waiting from as early as 6 a.m. are voters. They are eager to get their voice to count in this particular primary being conducted by Jubilee. And I will be speaking to one of the agents for the governor in this county. Thank you very much. The incumbent, that's Mwangi Wairia. This is his agent with us this morning, sir. Talk to us about why there has been a delay. It was meant to begin at 6 a.m. and whether you're satisfied so far with the process.
We are so far satisfied with the process, and the delay was just about transportation of ballot boxes, and people here are very eager to vote at this time.
Have you heard any other complaints from voters, any of your supporters?
There is no complaint at all. There is no complaint. At least the people are waiting to start with the voting right now.
All right. What will be the source of reference in as far as voting is concerned? Is it the party list or is it the IBC register?
It is the IBC register which we are using, not the party list.
Okay. Many thanks. Thank you very much. Your name, sir?
My name is Stephen Gitao Mwangi, popularly known as the Bija from Modidi.
All right. Many thanks. We also want to speak to the main opponent that is contending with the incumbent. Sir, if you don't mind, tafadhali jiunge nasi hapa. He is here as an agent representing and looking out for the interest of Jamlek Kamau. Asante sana kwa kuwa nasi. Are you happy with the process so far?
I'm very happy. I'm very happy with this function, as it is going on very well.
Okay. No issues at all?
I have nothing to comment because everything is going well.
All right. Thank you very much. Some of the agents in here, again, as I mentioned, Michael, we have the presiding officer. That is the man standing right in front of this 5 ballot boxes, and he's explaining to the agents, showing them, having a conversation about ensuring each and everything is working okay. He emptied them to ensure that there was nothing inside, and we'll be going outside perhaps to be able to speak to some of the voters here. Stanley will advise me if we can be able to move, but a very excited electorate.
Right, and we do apologize for the poor signal, and we certainly are looking forward to hear more from you, Sophia, regarding what is going on, and the interruption there brought about by a poor connection. So we're trying to see whether we can still reach her. So Sophia, go right ahead.
Security officers, police officers in each of the polling centers. I just want to hear from Wananchi.
Our apologies again as we wait for that signal to stabilize. We definitely would like to hear what the residents and the voters would have to say in that particular area in Jubilee Primary School. Let's listen in to Sophia. Okay, no, the signal is not yet quite clear, so we certainly will bring that back as we go along. Remember, Duncan Kayamba was also in Bomet telling us and giving us an update of what is going on in Bomet. But the main word I think that can be used to describe what is going on right now is disorganization, Churchill. Would you agree?
It's chaotic, and when you look at the amount of assurance that leaders of these special purpose vehicles, as Professor
SPVs, now known as SPVs.
When you look at the assurance that the leaders of these SPVs give to the voters, there'll be free and fair nominations. Yet, in actual fact, no mechanisms at all are being put in place to ensure that, to deliver, free and fair nominations. So you see the disconnect between the public assurances that we've been hearing from His Excellency the President, His Excellency the Deputy President, the ODM party leader, all these leaders have been giving assurances everywhere. Right from, almost a year ago, they started assuring that this time around, yet nothing seems to be happening differently. And I think it is time that coming from civil society, I think we also have a role to help these political parties to develop institutions within themselves, like the internal party election boards. If they can establish these boards early enough, we can help to train them
but you see, according
through the
to
mechanisms. But you see, the manner in which they are unpicked at the last minute makes it even very difficult, if not impossible, to even work with these political parties to build the capacities of these election boards, to tell them, to take them through what it takes to deliver credible and legitimate
and fair elections.
Exactly.
And according to Prof, and I'd like you to hear what you say in regards to that, it is almost intentional that they have not put things in place and structures in place. So what you're saying is true if they would do this in time, but maybe they don't want to.
They don't want to because we come from a past where the king's voice is enough. And so they do not expect that people would have alternative views and express dissent. And I think it is deliberate that things are left to be so chaotic. Now, my worry with this postponement, as we have been seeing with the Jubilee nominations, is that they do not have the benefit of time to keep on postponing. And what is happening is that all these are playing into the hands of the party leaders because they'll get the excuse now to sit in a boardroom and draw up the list of their preferred candidates. And that is what we saw happen particularly with ODM in 2013, where a group of people just sat in Nairobi and drew up a list.
Let me cut you short because we want to cross over to Chris Dairo, who is in Roiro. Chris, good morning. Thank you for joining us. What is the situation in Roiro, Chris?
Good morning to you, Mike. I'm at St. George's Primary School in Ruiru constituency, which is in Kiambu County. And from 5 voters here have been waiting to decide who will fly the Jubilee ticket for various elective positions. But the process is yet to start. Remember that Kiambu County is a Jubilee zone. And what members or what voters here have been told is that the ballot boxes and the ballot papers are just on the way. I'll just sample a few interviews with those who are here very early in the morning just to tell us what they have experienced or what they have been told. Labda habari yako kwanza. Alafu kwanza utatuambia kwa jina, alafu tueleze umekuwa hapa kuanzia saa ngapi na je, umeelezwa haya matayarisho ama hii shughuli itaanza wakati upi?
Kwa majina naitwa Francis Karanja Mogira na tumekaa hapa kutoka saa 11 na hata kwa muda wa saa hii hatujaweza kuletewa bado vitu za kuweka nini kupiga kura.
Na mmeweza kuongea na maafisa wote labda wa chama?
Bado hakuna mtu ameleta ripoti yoyote tu kuhusu uchaguzi.
Naje hapa kunajua hii ni shule ambao najua governor wa Kiambu Kabogo aliweza kusomea. Je, ameweza kukuja hapa katika eneo hili?
Bado hajaweza kufika na bado hakuna ripoti yoyote imefika bado hata kwa muda wa saa huu.
Asante sana. We'll sample another view. Labda kwa majina yako tutueleza and tell us what are your expectations today.
Kwa majina naitwa Timothy Chege.
Mimi ni agent na wakilisha MCA aspirant hapa. Ninaamini kuwa nominations leo zitakuwa huru na haki, kutakuwa na amani na jioni tutapata washindi ambao ni wahalali. Ndio.
Na je, upande wa usalama mmeweza kueleza utakuwa vipi?
Well, tumeambiwa polisi watakuwa tumeweza kuona wakitiririka ndani na tunaambiwa tunaongejea pia wengine wafike. Kwa hiyo tunaamini upande wa usalama utakuwa pia sawa.
We kama agenti wa mmoja ambao wanagombea viti hivi, je, umeweza kuongea na maafisa wa chama ama je ule ambaye unasimamia mgombeaji ameweza kukueleza mambo iko vipi ama karatasi atafika wakati upi?
Bado nimezungumza naye, lakini pia ameniambia kuwa hayuko na uhakika wakati ambapo tutaanza. Ingawa pia ameniambia kuwa makaratasi yako njiani anakuja. Kwa hivyo niendelee kungoja tu, nikuwe patient. Ndio.
Asante sana. Tutaendelea kusubiri. Well, Mike, has been the situation in most of the polling centers in Kiambu County. I've tried to call some of my colleagues who are in Limuru, others in Thika, and what they're telling me is that the process is yet to begin. Remember, the promise that the party had given is that by 5 agents and, of course, officials of the party will be around all the polling centers so that they can prepare for the voters to cast the ballot. But now it's around 8:10, 8:15, and the process is yet to kick off. Remember that Kiambu County has approximation of 870,000 registered voters, and we of course these being primaries, we don't expect all the numbers to come out, but at least half of the voters might turn out today. And it is a county that most Kenyans have been waiting for to see who will carry the day in terms of the gubernatorial seat. It is the battle of the titans. Remember that the incumbent, that is William Gitao Kabogo, will be facing Ferdinand Waititu, who is currently the member of Kabete. And remember that James Nyoro and Gakuyo all decided to back Ferdinand Waititu. Remember, they were contesting, but they agreed that they will be backing Ferdinand Waititu so that he can square it out with the incumbent, that is William Kabogo. And so much focus will be on that seat, the gubernatorial seat. But of course, we can't forget other elective positions. That is for the senator, we have the incumbent Wamatangi, and of course we have Karungo Wadhangwa. They will be squaring it out. And Kiambu County has a total of 12 constituencies, and out of the 12 constituencies, there are hotspots. Remember, in Ruiru, recently we saw a nominated member of parliament, Isaac Mwaura, injured during skirmishes in one of the campaign trails, and he accused his competitor, that is Simon Kingara, of being behind that. And the two will also be battling out with the incumbent member of parliament for Ruiru, that is Esther Gadogo. And the three are the front runners. It has appeared to be a 3-horse race. Also, remember, we have Gatundu South. In Gatundu South, we have the incumbent Moses Kuria. And Moses Kuria, remember, when he was elected through a by-election. And during that by-election, he did not face any competition. And he was given a direct nomination ticket. But this time round, the widow to the late Joseph Ngugi, that is Joyce Ngugi, of course, he was the late Joseph Ngugi was a member of parliament in Gatundu South who was elected in 2013, but during that time he passed on during his tenure in office, and so his widow, that is Joyce Ngugi, will be battling it out with Moses Kuria. And of course we have Thika constituency, that we have the current member of parliament. She is facing at least 10 competitors, and also focus will be in Kabete, where we saw Chege Fresha, who had been kidnapped, according to him, and found in Narok. Of course, those are some of the constituencies that we'll be checking out. And of course, when this process starts, of course, you'll come to us so that we can tell Kenyans what's going on. And now from here in Ruiru constituency at St. George's Primary School, I hand you over to my colleague Sharon Mumanyi, who is in Kirinyaga County.
Well, thank you very much, Chris Thairu. We are at St. Joseph Primary School in Kerugoya town, that is in Kirinyaga County, and this here is the county tallying center. What we have experienced throughout the county this morning from the various polling centers, both from the constituency level and at the county level, is that there have been delays. None of this exercise across the polling centers have begun as at now, and I don't know if you can see behind me here, we are seeing the polling materials just getting distributed from this center. It's 8:30 in the morning now. Earlier on today, we were at Rukenya Primary School, where the incumbent governor, Joseph Ndathi, is expected to be casting his ballot anytime from now. But we can see that there have been delays, and we see that residents have come out in numbers actually to witness and to exercise this particular vote. And also Anne Waiguru, who is also trying, or rather trying to get the ticket for the gubernatorial seat on the Jubilee ticket, is also expected to cast her ballot in Kiamugumo polling center, that is in Geshogo constituency, still here. So what we know is that this is a very tight race, especially for the gubernatorial race. We have the incumbent Joseph Ndathi, who's fighting it out with Anne Waiguru, and it's not a two-horse race. We also have Joseph Gitari and two other who are vying for this particular gubernatorial ticket on the Jubilee ticket, that is. And we want to just speak to some of the residents who have turned out here, really weathering the weather this morning. It's a very chilly and it has been raining since morning, just to find out what their expectations are for this particular exercise. Na ningependa kuongelesha kidogo, labda tukaribie tu kidogo, uniambie jina yako ni nani?
Naitwa Fantas Ndege, mi ni mkaaji huku. And kusema watu walifika hapa mapema around 4 AM, and tumefurahia sana, watu wako na amani, security iko tight, and najua tutaendelea vizuri.
Okay, mlikuwa mmeahidiwa kwamba shughuli hii itaanza mapema kama saa 12 asubuhi, bado haijaanza. Sijui kama hiyo kidogo imewarudisha motisha chini ama bado mko tu sawa?
Tuko tu sawa juu tunaelewa hewa na transport, and kulingana na venye gari zilikuwa zinatafuta pia. Tunajua tu mambo itakuwa poa, watu wamefurahia, hata kama wamefunga kazi zao, wamejitolea na tutaendelea vizuri.
Okay, na labda tukizungumzia kidogo kuhusu uonyaji wa tikiti ya ugavana, hasa katikati ya wale ambao unajua wanang'ang'ania tiketi hii, wewe unaionaje kama mkaazi wa hapa?
Mimi naona iko salama kabisa. Hakuna mambo ya siasa ama ugomvi kufanya watu wakosane. Mambo iko vizuri, na najua watu wako, unajua voting ni skill ya mtu. Kila mtu atavote mwenye ajua na kutakuwa vizuri. Yeah.
Na asante sana. Na tunataka, right now we want to just walk into the room here where the distribution of these papers is still taking place. We are earlier on speaking to the presiding officer here, Mr. Munyi, who now can't talk to us because he's busy in last minute distribution of these exercises. But just to give you a show of pictures of what is happening here at St. Joseph Primary School. It's a very busy time. You can't see this happening right now. Just at 8:30 in the morning, there are 5 constituencies in Kirinyaga County where this activity is supposed to be taking place. All of the polling centers are at the moment not exercising anything, as we see this has not been distributed. So a lot of, a buzz of activity is taking place here, as you can see. But just to give you a brief background, you know that Kirinyaga County is considered a hotspot for Jubilee. It has about 265,000 registered voters. In the 2013 general election, President Uhuru Kenyatta managed to scoop 248,000, votes here, presidential votes here from this county, just to show you how hot this place is for the Jubilee party. And for the race that has all eyes on it at the moment is who exactly is going to be flying the Jubilee ticket for the gubernatorial seat. And we have seen the entry of one Anne Mumbi, Waiguru on the gubernatorial race. You will remember that she has no history really in political elective posts, but is considered as a powerful, a powerhouse really, in the sense of how she managed, she led the devolution ministry, which is considered a very powerful ministry, and that saw her entry into the political, just the powerhouse of this country. So all eyes are on this, particularly this too, but we cannot rule out also the other incumbents, and we shall be trying to, the other candidates who are looking to get the tickets, and we shall be looking to give you, what is going on from that side. But just a look at what is happening here, you can see that security is very tight, even as this material is being distributed to the various polling centers in Kirinyaga constituency. Is a very hot one. And just continuing with that communication on the gubernatorial race specifically, you will know that whoever will clinch that Jubilee ticket from this county will be facing it out with Martha Karua, who is vying on the NAC Kenya ticket for the gubernatorial seat in this place. So a very hotly contested one, but the exercise is yet to begin, as you can see. So we shall be keeping you posted from the ground as and when this happens, just to show you what exactly will be happening. Back to you and studio.
Sharon Momanyi, who is in Kirinyaga County, showing us, what's going on the ground, and details there evident that it has not.
Are happening from that place. Jeff?
Well, a very good morning, Michael. Indeed, we are here at Sosiot Girls Secondary School in Belgut Sub-County, and the exercise actually has actually been halted here. There is no distribution of ballot papers and ballot materials. Residents are actually saying the exercise will not go on because the ballot papers actually, which have been supplied in this area, they claim are less. And I'm going to talk to Kenneth Sigay, the returning officer in Belgut Sub-County, just to give us a picture of what actually is happening here. Well, very good morning. Thank you for joining us at KTN News. What actually is the issue here in Belgut Sub-County?
Thank you very much. The issue is that the number of registered voters in Belgut are over 50,000, but the ones which have been distributed as the polls are 24,350. So there is a very big deficit. So that is the main problem, which has made the election not to continue in this sub-county.
Well, have you managed to talk to the county officials or the Jubilee officials just to tell you on the way forward regarding this exercise, whether it will take off or what will be the next course of action?
I've managed to call one of the officials, and he had told me that he was to come to the station. But up to now, he has not come. Yes.
Do you foresee this exercise going on?
I'm not the one who can talk on that matter as for now, but you can contact the Jubilee headquarters for further information.
All right. Well, that is Kenneth Sigay, who is the returning officer in Belgut Sub-County. And here, one of the aspirants here, Nelson Koech, who is also aspiring for the Jubilee ticket in Belgut constituency. Remember, Belgut constituency so far has two Jubilee candidates. It's him, Nelson Koech Sonko, and then also there is Eric Keter, who is vying for that ticket under the Jubilee ticket. Well, he's going to tell us what actually is the issue here. Well,
thank you very much. We've had a problem. We were here in the morning expecting material, and to our disappointment, I think Jubilee, the party, was overambitious in their preparation. There's a shortage, total disappointment. There's a shortage of voting material. And as you can see, we've been held hostage by Wananchi. They are demanding that we must have enough ballot papers. Already a few had left, and I think as we are talking now, the people who had left have been recalled back so we can see how to start the process afresh. Every indication is that this process might not proceed today.
All right. So far, have you managed, as an aspirant, have you managed to talk to the Jubilee officials on how to solve this problem in Belgut Sub-County?
It's a general problem. I think it is. It seems to be a general problem. Everyone seems to be, is caught unawares, and everyone seems to be expecting that things are running, but it's different on the ground. I've made phone calls to a few people, and they're also equally disappointed. So we are left here, and as aspirants now, we are about to meet and chart the way forward.
Thank you very much. And then also right now, residents are actually milling outside the gates of this school. And we're going to talk to one more aspirant before we head there to just find out what exactly some of their issues are.
Thank you very much. My name is Jeffrey. I'm aspiring MCA. Chaikwad, now seated representing persons with disabilities in this county. But to my disappointment that we don't have ballot papers in the polling stations. And we are ready for the exercise. But I think this thing should not continue without the ballot papers. If we have 50% less, then it seems things are not going right. So we must have the ballot papers so that we can continue. Because the one here is holding us hostage, that we need the ballot papers. We cannot use the exercise box. That one will open so many holes for rigging, you know. So we need the ballot papers, we need the ballot boxes, and we need fairness in these things. That's the only thing we want to tell the Jubilee Party, and we are really supporting the Jubilee Party. What we want is fair exercise. That's the only thing. Thank you so much.
All right, now let's just make our way outside there to just find out what exactly is happening here. Remember, these are some of the members of the public who have actually barricaded the gate. As you can see, the security is actually tight outside here, and we'll just make our way outside the gate to find out what exactly is happening. And as of now, these are some of the members of public who want to just tell us what exactly is happening. Well, maybe unaweza tueleza jina yako and tell us what is happening. Tafadhali songa upande huu mwingine. Kidogo. Na mtatueleza unaitwa nani na nini linaendelea hapa?
Kwa majina naitwa Raymond Rono, mkaaji hapa Wandai. Ile kitu inaendelea hapa tuelewi. Mambo ya ballot papers imekuja less. Hata mahali tunakuanga na 2000 plus votes. Tumepata ballot papers 500 peke yake. Yes,
so mnatarajia nini liendelea haswa hapa katika eneo hili?
Ile kitu tunasema tumia hata ile system ya kitambo mlolongo. Hatukubali isongeshwe. Tukisongeshwa hatujui ile plan wanapanga huko mbele. Na kitu kingine, this is not a police state. Mahali polisi wanatutisha. Raia wako na haki yao. Leo ni siku yetu ya kuchagua viongozi wetu. Ile siku ambayo after 5 years sawa. Polisi wasitutishe. Lazima tuingie huko ndani tujue haki yetu inaendelea namna gani huko.
Na acha tuzungumze pia na mzee hapa mmoja ambaye atatueleza jina, kisha utueleze ni nini haswa maoni yako kuhusu shughuli hii ya leo na ni nini limeweza kufanyika hapa, mmeshinda mkiteta hapa nje ya lango hili la shule.
Mimi kwa majina naitwa Jeremiah Kirui, na mimi nilikuwa kwa hii process tangu jana tulipotoa masanduku huko mpaka tumefikisha hapa shule. Shida yenye tulipata huko ni kwamba hizi masanduku zilikuwa zimefunguliwa, zilikuwa wazi. So ilipokuwa inaletwa hapa, hatukuwa tunafikiria maneno mengi yenye imetendeka huko. Tulikuwa na shauku kwamba kulikuwa na wizi wa kura huko. Alafu leo hii asubuhi tulipokuwa ngojea ile yenye tulikuwa tumekata kauli kwamba hatutakuwa tunapiga kura, one of our aspirants alitangaza ya kwamba tutatumia ile kura yenye ilikuwa imeenda nyumbani tuhesabu tupige kura na irudishwe. Na kitambo kidogo tukashuhudia sanduku ikaletwa hapa yenye kulikuwa na kura. So kitu yenye imetuweka huko kulikuwa na uwizi. Tatu, tulikuwa tunafikiria ya kwamba yale ambao process yenye imeletwa na nomination papers imekuwa kidogo kiasi. One of the polling centers yenye tumechua hapa kama till date ilikuwa 1900 registered voters plus, lakini kura yenye ilipewa huko ni 250. So kuonyesha deficit ya hizi cards ni kubwa kiasi. So hatutaweza kuelewa zaidi juu ya mpango ya Jubilee. So we are appealing to the two principles ya hii country. Watu angalia kwamba kama wanataka kuchukua sisi kwa Jubilee, wachukue mzuri, wawe transparent, wawe concern, lakini saa hii kuna kirata inachezwa huko. Wasipocheza mchezo yao mzuri, tunarudi nazo.
Okay, well, those are some of the views from the residents here. And we're just going to make our way outside this crowd just to give you a picture of the number of people here who are actually waiting outside the gate. They've actually halted the distribution of ballot papers. They are saying that they want the number of ballot papers to be increased, claiming that some of the polling stations have actually received 50% less voting papers, and they want that increased. Maybe just I can talk to one more resident from here in Belgut to tell us what exactly is happening. Well, maybe unaweza tueleza jina na utuambie ni nini hasa kinaendelea hapa.
Kwa majina mimi naitwa Ernest Limo, mimi ni mkazi wa hapa Belgut. Sasa ile watu wametoa ballot papers ndogo, kumaanisha wako njia wamepanga hizi vitu ya kuiba, na hatutaki hiyo. Wakikataa kutupea hizo ballot papers yote ya watu ambao walijiandikisha katika Belgut constituency, watu waamua waende Mlolongo, tuone ile imetoka kabisa, watu wenyewe waone ni nini kinaendelea. Watu wasitufunge majo, tuko na haki yetu kupiga kura, na mtu asikuja apange Kericho ni yetu. Hiyo ndio maneno. Kama mapanga huko juu, tukuje tupanga hapa chini, tufanye yetu haki yetu na tufunje hii Jubilee.
Mnatarajia kwamba mtapiga kura?
Tulikuwa tumetarajia na tumejipanga kupiga kura. Hata watu wengine wamekuja polling station wako tayari kupiga kura. Yeah.
Well, those are just some of the issues happening here. Well, maybe let me just talk. As you can see, some of the residents are actually showing their disregard, or rather their displeasure about the exercise being delayed in this area of Belgut constituency. Well, those are some of the signs. Those are some of the signs of some of the political parties in this area. And they are threatening to ditch Jubilee party in the area. Well, Michael, maybe right now we are going to go to Buret sub-county, where we are being told that the exercise actually has also been halted in Litein, the main tallying center in Buret, which is Litein town. Well, back to you, Michael, in studio.
All right, thank you very much, Jeff Kirui there. And Jeff is coming to us live from Belgut, where there is, disquiet again. And this is, of course, because of ballot papers not being distributed. And gentlemen, you are saying that iyo manyunyu ambao wanatuonyesha kuna shida kule.
I think it should worry Jubilee that the people of Belgut are basically saying that if they do not put their act together, they have an alternative.
And that is CCM.
And that is CCM. And that is CCM. So how legitimate, how proper the nominations, Jubilee will do its nominations, particularly in areas where there is alternative political vehicles that people can use, would determine whether they'll be able to mobilize sufficient support during the August
during August the 8th. And let me read a statement from the Secretary General of Jubilee Party, and that is Raphael Tuju, and I'm going to read it verbatim. And on the 21st of April, that's when it has been sent, 2017, for immediate release, press release on party primaries. And this is from the headquarters, Pangani. And this is what the statement says. Jubilee Party's nominations process kicks off today, April the 21st, 2017. We wish to confirm that we have managed to deliver electoral materials to all participating constituencies. We further wish to confirm that the party has made sufficient provision to ensure all voters exercise their democratic right without any hindrance or inhibition whatsoever. We further wish to state that all primaries will proceed as per procedure and schedule provided by the party to urge all voters to adhere to the guidelines provided by the party headquarters on the primaries. Now, this is in bold. It says no aspirants or returning officer has the authority to issue statements regarding the party's process. And gentlemen, maybe your thoughts on that, given that we already saw that in Bomet, aspirants have come out and said no voting is going to continue. We also have some of the voters saying it will not start until they're sure that there's enough ballot papers. I mean, looking at Belgut as an example, They say that there are 50,000, expected about 50,000 residents who are to vote, but the voting material is about 24,350, less than half.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Looking at the overall scenario and the process as it's going, despite the fact that the party, through its secretariat, is issuing assurance to the electorate that the process is good, everything is set, the feeling on the ground is that the process is not fair, and there's this feeling that maybe something somewhere is not happening properly. And there are two things that are coming out from this process so far. There's the delay of voting materials, and there's insufficient materials.
Right.
You look at, today the election is taking place in two Jubilee strongholds, the former Central Province and the Rift Valley. Rift Valley being the stronghold of the Deputy President, and Central being the stronghold of the President. Now, in stronghold of the Deputy President, one characteristic is that there is no sufficient, there is material, yes, materials arrived on time, but materials are not sufficient. Now, at what level did the electorates or the presiding officers of those stations realize that the people who are coming to vote are more than the number of voting materials that are available? What my suggestion would have been to open up this process that morning, let people vote, then look at the process as it goes. Then if the materials ends and there's a queue, then they can say, okay, people turned up in large numbers to vote, but unfortunately, materials are not enough. So we request the head office to send the materials. But to put the whole process, to stall the whole process in the name that we don't have the material, people are expected to vote 50,000, then the material that we have is 24,000, then, you know, it brings a lot of questions to...
All right, Prof, your thoughts on the way forward, because this is not looking good. In all the constituencies that we've managed to go live, hardly have they started voting. Now, it's going to 3 hours since the time that they were scheduled to start. In some areas, we've seen that voters, especially Rift Valley, it looks like voters came out in large numbers, and Central Province as well, large numbers to exercise their democratic right. What is the way forward for Jubilee at this point in time?
Well, first and foremost is the fact that there is a disconnect between what Raphael Tuju is saying and what is going on the ground, which suggests that the implementation arm of the National Jubilee Secretariat is either incompetent or absent or is being paralyzed.
Or compromised.
I'm using paralyzed to avoid implying now. But if you look at it critically, Mike, it is quite, to me, it is not the correct thing, but I'm going to speculate. It's quite clear that there have been intelligence reports available to the SPV owners. Now, wananchi are anxious, they are keen to vote, but quote unquote, their preferred candidates are not doing well on the ground. The guys that they won't like to have, those preferred candidates appear like they are saying, look, you are throwing me to the dogs. Why don't we paralyze this system so that we have enough room to maneuver? That's one aspect. The second aspect is that if you look in different areas, this is quite apparent from the way, all right, the Jubilee leadership is feeling it wants to isolate itself from what is going on because it looks so bad. Because one of the things that I'm really feeling uncomfortable about, they are shouting at national level, they're efficient, they're, you know, everything. But you look, this is like you going to the market and saying your family is the best run family in your neighborhood. Then the next day, people will find your children eating from the village dustbin. Now, that kind of, so it suggests very strongly that there is internal disquiet within Jubilee about how they should manage and who would be able to help them do well in the next election. Thirdly, there is an interesting thing that was observed, I think, in Murang'a. She talked, Sharon, was it in Nyeri, where Sharon Momanyi is?
She's in Kirinyaga.
Kirinyaga. She talked about there is very heavy security. To me, there was security presence, not necessarily.
Heavy security.
Not necessarily heavy security.
There's a difference.
Yeah, and a lot of those, these people you see have been participating in many political activities in the past. Those people are serving specific interests. The ones
the security organs?
Yes, they are serving specific interests.
On what grounds would you?
What normally happens in these polling stations is, if you see we are doing badly, munatoa inje the people who are likely to make us lose. They wanaondoa watu wanasema, you get out, kaa huko inje. We want this thing to be orderly, so that you are able to allow the preferred candidates to fare on properly. Finally, I want to say something about this whole scenario. If you look very carefully, the way forward for Jubilee is very simple. At the moment, let them try and do continuous improvement on the ground by correcting those mistakes wherever they are. Considering that there are mobile phones and everything is available, these are things that they should be doing immediately, particularly in areas where there is easy access. For example, you're talking about Ruiru. Ruiru is only a few kilometers from Jubilee headquarters. So why is there a problem in Ruiru? So by taking corrective action, the way this is normally done, and I've done it in other areas with regard to other projects, is that they did not have an SMS messaging system where if you have a problem here, there is a unit you report to immediately.
That takes care of that.
Takes care, that is an early response system. So what I said from the beginning, there wasn't a framework for implementation of the primary, of the nominations. If there was a framework, then people would know how to respond at each point in order to take corrective action. So what Jubilee headquarters should do, stop issuing these statements, correct what is going on the ground, and then issue a statement to confirm that we have already done this and this. In a certain place, it's working. In another place, it's working. That's the way forward. That's part one. Part two, all right, they should be having, all right, people sitting down, all right, consultants, a think tank, analyzing how badly that thing is going and preparing a report just in case this thing gets off the rails, what should be done, and recommending what should be done going forward. And that should be able then to enable them to amalgamate what is going on in terms of corrective action and what is advised as corrective action going forward.
And looking at what we are seeing so far in terms of disorganization, it is unlikely that somebody is sitting there and preparing a report, as you have said, you know, sort of being proactive. Churchill, do you feel that for Jubilee, this is a make or break moment where their confidence levels of the people in the ruling party are going down?
I mean, it is definitely a development that is going to hurt the party. We expected that as the ruling party, which actually had fairly good nominations last time. If you want to know whether a party has good nominations, you look at the number of women who have been nominated contesting, some of those vulnerable groups. And I think Jubilee in particular had the largest number of women sitting in today's National Assembly and the Senate. And that is an indication that they did a generally good job of this kind of exercise last time. Unfortunately, when they amalgamated into one huge entity, I think there's a way in which they have been overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the process. And there was no sufficient planning. I was particularly shocked when I saw Jubilee dismiss certain officials, very key officials, barely a month ago. And you don't just dismiss and replace those people. It doesn't matter how efficient the people you bring in are. A lot of these things require time to prepare. They require a lot of logistical preparations, a lot of resources. And I think, as I said earlier, there is a sense in which all these parties, right from ODM to Jubilee to Wiper, they have swindled the people, the candidates, of the resources that people contributed towards this exercise. Because if you employed most of that resource, if you said, okay, let's use 70% of what each candidate has contributed, this exercise would have been a bit better. But what we see here is, I think 30% has gone into the nomination, and probably 70% is going into people's other things, and possibly campaigns for the presidential candidate and stuff. What the voters are saying is possible. We have seen, candidates flying all over in choppers, and because already there are plates, for printing. Templates. There are templates for printing additional ballot papers. What they need to do is direct the printer to do more counts of the ballot papers, put them in a chopper, drop them in Kericho, drop them in Bomet, take the Western Circuit, another one to the Central Circuit, and so that the process can go on and the tension can be eased. Because without that easing, there is a likelihood that all these nominations will once again happen on the same day, and you can imagine how chaotic.
And there's also the deadlines.
And the deadlines that they have to meet. And all these things is playing into the hands of what Professor called the owners of the SPVs. Because then they'll have all the opportunity and the excuse to sit down and say, put so-and-so in this constituency, put so-and-so in this county, because now they'll be have the excuse to handpick, literally, their preferred candidates.
All right, Mr. Wakoli, how is this likely to affect voters now come August the 8th? Because if at this point in time, and this is not just for Jubilee, it's ODM as well, and maybe Wiper Party, we've not, how is that likely to affect the voter in terms of feeling that their voice is really not being heard? Because if it is not represented at the party level, then really at the national level, you could have voter apathy.
Thank you, Mike. When you look at the entire process at the moment, this is the largest turnout that we have ever had in nominations. Yeah, so you look at the crowds in Rift Valley, you look at the crowds in ODM primaries, and the other parties are also conducting primaries. Ford Kenya is carrying its primaries, Wiper is doing the same, Amani Coalition is doing the same, Amani Party is also doing the same, although they are not so much captured in main media. Or when you look at the place, the way they are happening, you'll realize that most of these political parties have mobilized their people, or the supporters have been mobilized to know that, or to think that whoever you nominate at this primary is actually the ultimate winner come August. So the voting at this moment is for those positions at the county level, parliamentary, MCA. But at the national level, in August elections, the elections will now be determined by the presidential campaign. And these people will be mobilized along a specific agenda. Like I said in the past, as I said earlier, the agenda for 2013 was the issue of ICC and, pro and those who wanted others jailed, and it really mobilized people in their stronghold to push for the interests of their preferred candidates. But now we are expecting a different, clarion call, and people will turn out to vote for that president. Let us maintain power.
All right.
It is our time to eat. Others have eaten, those kind of things.
Gentlemen, unfortunately, we're out of time and we'll have to wind it up right there. Suba Churchill, who's a political analyst, Professor Oeri Tumbo, thank you for joining us, and Bernard Wakoli, who's a political analyst as well. Thank you so very much. I want to finish off with a statement from a Jubilee Party, and this is from the SecGen, and he says, Jubilee Party nomination process kicks off today, which is supposed to have happened, and that's today, April the 21st, 2017. We wish to confirm that we have managed to deliver electoral materials in all participating constituencies. We further wish to confirm that the party has made sufficient provision to enable our voters exercise their democratic right without any hindrance or inhibitions whatsoever. We further wish to state that all primaries will proceed as per the schedule provided by the party and urge voters to adhere to the guidelines provided for the party headquarters on the primaries. Then he says no aspirant or returning officer has the authority to issue any statement regarding the party's process, and that is signed off by the Secretary General, Honorable Raphael Tuju. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we wind up Morning Express this morning, and thank you for staying with us.